Okay, hello, good evening everybody. Welcome to our December Fans Forum, the room decorated beautifully for it. Thanks a lot to everybody who's in the room here, that's come along, braved the weather to be with us tonight. Lots of questions, obviously, that have been raised over the last couple of weeks since we announced this, and also over the last 24 hours as well. We've done our best to kind of get every area involved in some sort of line of questioning, but it's also on you guys that are in here today to have your say, have your question. We will try and we will get to everybody who has a question to ask. Thanks to everybody who's watching back at home as well on our YouTube link. I know it's going to be one of the most watched probably that we've had over the last couple of seasons. But yeah, thank you for tuning in. Before we get started, I want to introduce our panel. So we've got Paul Byrne, the Chief Executive, Derek Adams, Director of Football, and also Simon Hallett, our Chairman. Give a round of applause if you would like. And I think most people sort of know the format of these sorts of evenings. We chat through questions that have come in from at home, but also open it up to you guys. I'm going to actually let Simon explain exactly how things are going to go today with a little opening for tonight.
Okay, so we've had a bunch of questions come in over email as we requested, and thanks to everybody who sent those in. Despite rumours to the contrary, they are not censored. We do sometimes amalgamate questions that seem to be addressing similar issues. So if you haven't heard your exact question asked by Charlie, please don't think that we're censoring it or ignoring it. It's just that we think we've answered it in conjunction with somebody else's question or in conjunction with the amalgamated question. If you're not happy with the answers or you think we haven't answered it, please raise your hand here tonight if you're here. If you're not, please send follow-up questions to our email address, and the best one for this will be media@pafc.co.uk. That's media@pafc.co.uk. And we're going to start, I think, with questions that have come in over email before we get to questions from the floor.
Yeah, we will do that. But as Simon said, if there is, whilst we're on that topic, something that comes to mind in the room that hasn't been sort of answered or touched upon, do put your hand up and we'll get a mic to you. I do want to just point out the two of our staff members that have microphones. Ali Cliff is on this side, sat on the windowsill, and Rob McNichol is on the opposite side, just by the Silverstream base. So, yeah, pop your hand up for that, and then we will come to everybody right at the very end for anything else that you want to ask. But don't be afraid, just pop the hand up. We will come to you. Are we ready? Are you ready? Right. We'll go flying in with one of the kind of biggest topic questions. And I think I'll aim this firstly to you, Simon. Paul, Derek, feel free to jump in whenever you like as well. So just over 12 months ago, we were in the Championship, mid-table in the Championship. We're now in a relegation fight in the league below in League One. What have you, Simon, and the board, Paul, allowed us, or why have you allowed us to get into this position, and how are you going to get us out of it?
Okay, well, I think a lot of the conversation this evening will be about how we're going to get out of it. How we got into this position is the result of some bad decisions we've made, some processes that I think eroded, and as I say, obviously some bad decisions that we've made. Much more important, though, I think, is rather than allocating individual blame, that we take collective responsibility here. We were successful for several years as a club, and we've been unsuccessful as a club. So I don't want to spend this evening pointing fingers, allocating blame. We've all made these mistakes, whether it be the board, whether it be executives, whatever. So we are much more focused on what we're going to do to fix it. We've made some changes. We've got Paul come in as chief executive. We've got Derek come in recently as director of football. We'll be re-examining our processes overall. We're obviously very focused at the moment on recruitment processes, and we will be looking to strengthen all of those in coming weeks.
Yeah, and as you say, we will touch on all of those. Paul, I don't know whether you have anything else to add on that, why we've been allowed to get into this position.
Well, I think Simon said it, there's been some decisions that have been poor, and things just clearly haven't worked at the club, and we've got to face into that. I mean, nobody's happy with the position. With the position that we're in now in the league table is very, very difficult. And despite the fact that we've spent a top 6 budget, and we know that, we thought going into this season that we would spend a top 6 budget. the league releases information and we know that we spent the 6th highest budget in the league and we're clearly not performing against it. I think the other factor that I think is very difficult, we've had so much change in the club, I've said this before, changes in almost every position in the club, and I think that doesn't really help. Going through the recruitment window last year, there were so many people who were involved in that who weren't involved during the summer. So all that change has really made it very, very difficult to find consistency and good outcomes. And it's just not great where we find ourselves as a result of those things.
Yeah, I heard someone raise a point just then when you mentioned the top 6 budget point, which obviously was mentioned in the summer, maybe even to the back end of last year, but definitely in the summer. But so we know that.
We know that factually now.
Yeah. The point that came from out here was we spent that on what?
On the squad that we've got.
Yeah, so we may as well go into that. Thanks. We may as well go into the kind of transfer thing. So on the recruitment then, and I appreciate, Derek, you've just come in now. It might be a role for you going forward, certainly into January, or will be a role going forward into January. There was talk of a kind of a looking back at a review of that summer recruitment. What can you tell us in terms of what's come from that, and what lessons have been learned from that, and is there anyone being held accountable for what happened in the summer?
Well, I think the accountability is for everybody really, and the club is just not good enough where we are against the budget that's been spent, and I think we all take responsibility for that. There's a lot of changes that have happened in personnel, and that's a real problem. And I think that where we took a very data-led approach, I think some of that process, data isn't the answer to everything, but it certainly helps support the process where we've been successful in the past. That got lost a little bit in last summer's window. We had an awful lot of change, people who were instrumental in making sure that we had the right players and the right squad in place, had left the club or were transitioning in and out of the club. So that's really the big challenges. And so we've ended up with a squad that, we have bought with a top 6 budget that is just not in that top 6 position. So, I mean, what we're trying to do here is, then as we go into the January window, try and rectify that. Tom's had a very difficult hand to deal with, I think, from a recruitment perspective, and therefore, in January, we're going to try and rectify that by having more robust process around it, a bit more experience in the building, and look to try and change our position through that January window.
So actually, let's carry on with this, I suppose, because we've naturally gone there. Looking ahead to January then, from what has come through that review process, and Derek, feel free to come on this as well, because no doubt you will be involved in it. What is the plan in January, transfer-wise?
Do you want to say that?
Yeah, the plan is obviously to add to the squad. At this moment in time, the board have let you know there is a top 6 budget, okay? That's not a lie, that's the truth, okay? The EFL put out budgets throughout the season, and it categorises each club what they have spent on their players, and there's a top 6 budget. We can't get away from that. Whatever you might think, that's what's been spent. So at this moment in time, we've got enough money to possibly get 2 players in the January transfer window. That can differ. That's from the budget that was left in the summer, okay? That depends on this. We've got a squad just now with 33 players. 3 players are out on loan, so there's 30 players inside the building. There's 25 senior players.
Hang on a sec. We'll come to questions just when Derek's finished his point. We'll come to you.
There's 25 senior players and there's 5 youngsters in the squad. Okay, you can only have 22 players in your squad over 21 years of age, excluding goalkeepers. We're at 20 at this moment in time, so we've got to make judgment calls along the way. We've got 3 loan players in the building. We can still take in 2 loan players to make it 5. You can add to that and make it 6, but of the 6, 5 can only be in the 18-man squad. So the process in January is to look at what the head coach requires. The head coach at this moment in time and at the start of the season wasn't involved in the whole process. He came in late, the process was ongoing, and a different manager or a different head coach coming in has different ideas. And we have to support the head coach in the January transfer window going forward. We understand results need to improve. We all understand that. But what I will say is that you've got a very bright head coach. He's 36 years of age. It's his second job, been managing in the Championship with Watford. I've watched him in the training ground. I've watched how he leads his staff, his players around the building. He is a very good coach. He's had 25% of his playing staff unavailable for him already this season, and I'm talking about at this moment in time. He's away to lose his main striker. It's up to somebody else to take that forward as well. So all I'm saying is, it's not an excuse. That is where we are as a football club at this moment in time. And as the board have said, we're going to try and rectify that in the January transfer window in some way. Players will come and players will go.
Would you like to make your point that you had just a minute ago? If so, can you just put up your hand so we can get a mic to you, please? Just wait until the mic's there, otherwise we won't be able to hear. Hold it close to your face.
The players that have already been signed at the beginning of the season aren't up to the standard of doing the job properly, are they? It's not just the manager's fault. It's the whole recruitment process. Everything about it has been wrong.
I think that's what we've said, that there were faults in our recruitment process. If you remember back in January, we lost our head of football data, Ross Goodwin. We lost our head of recruitment, Jimmy Dickinson. And the processes that had been starting to improve over previous years went backwards. We tried to rectify that by getting a sporting director who was acting as a consultant to the club, along with one of his associates who was then employed as head of recruitment. But the processes that had been successful failed us. We don't think that they were implemented in the same way as they had been in previous years. And yes, this is exactly what we've just been talking about, that recruitment over the summer let us down.
Right, we've got plenty of hands up, so we'll take a couple from people that have their hands up. We'll come over this side, front row, straight into the mic.
Hi, yeah, thank you. First of all, thanks, Hallett, for everything you've done for our club. People might not agree, but without you, we wouldn't have been a club. You know, we could have been into National League quite easily. So, okay, but on to my actual question. We tend to want to play, in the last couple of years, possession play football, which I get, attacking football. We want to move up the field and press high. That isn't working with the team we've got. So why aren't we changing that? You know, the players are professional players. They've got to be able to play football to a standard. So why aren't we developing a different playing style temporarily to match the players we've got on the pitch?
I would say the head coach has changed his style. He's changed his formation on a number of times this season. And on Saturday, I would say the first 45 minutes that we should have been ahead in the game. We can all say that it's different in the second half, but as the head coach, he has changed formation, he has changed personnel, and he has looked at different ways to help. He has had injuries, he hasn't had a consistent team to pick from. The Saturday was the first time this season that he's picked the same 11 twice. So I think that's something that you've got to look at as well. He is looking to change things, and he's willing to do that.
Just on these, we'll take one more and then we'll go to some that have been sent in on transfers. Only on transfers at this point. If you've got another point, we'll come to it later on. So if you've got a transfer-related question, keep your hand up. Yeah, again, there's one over this side. In the past, I might have done like a little song during this interlude as Rob gets there, but I'll leave it today. No one wants to hear that.
I can answer this if you want.
Yeah, hello. Derek's just said that we're going to be signing 2 players in the transfer window. If that's the case, this squad's not good enough. We're all but down then. We might as well accept that already.
Yeah, would two solve it, yeah. I suppose the gist of that is would 2 players solve it, isn't it? That's
all I said is that we've got enough players in the budget at this moment in time. That can change. The budget might increase one way or the other. It might be transfer income, it might be outgoings, it might be other ways that the money might be generated. We're only saying at this moment in time that's what's in the budget. Now, there will be more money there to help us going forward. So we're not just saying that it'll be 2 players. It might be 3 and it might be 4. It might be more. We don't know at this moment in time because we've got to wait to see what type of player is there for us going forward. So all I said was that that's what is in the budget at this moment in time. There is ways to improve that going forward. And the board are looking to do that as we speak.
On a potential way of either getting some extra money back in that budget or being clever with it is the loan market. Now, there was a reluctance in the summer, I think it's fair to say, with using loans. So is that, firstly, an avenue you would use? You mentioned the 2 spots, and, you know, is there scope for players to go back for more spots to become available?
Yeah, I mean, that can be, there is 3 loan players at this moment in time, and there's a possibility that we can add 2 more to that. We don't know the situation with the loan players. Will they stay? Will they want to go back to their parent club? But that avenue is open to us.
The only thing I'd say is that in the very long run, we want to reduce our reliance on the loan market. I mean, it's been successful in the past, but the trouble is, when you have loan players, as we found out with some players in the past, you add value to them when they're at the club through good coaching, through getting playing experience, and then that value is captured by the parent club. And we prefer, in the long run, to be able to capture that value ourselves. But, you know, needs must when you have to do something else, and that will be the case in January, as Derek explained.
Hang on a sec. If you want to ask a question, put your hand up rather than... We can't hear you if you're just saying it without a microphone, so you have to put your hand up and we will come to you. And on that point, which I actually did hear, correcting myself, we did manage to sign Barley Mumba, we did manage to sign Morgan Whittaker. They stayed because of successful loans. Finnazaz was another option. Yeah. Who knows whether we could have signed him, but the option was there. When we've been successful recently, loan players have been at the heart of it. Yeah. And they have been for other clubs as well at this level?
Yeah, sure. And that's why we're going back to loan players in the January window.
Cool. Hands up if you want a question on transfers. We'll probably take a couple more before we do move on. Actually, on loan players, just while the mic gets there, what about players that are out on loan? Callum Wright, Nathaniel Ogbeta doing quite well at this level. Is there potential for
there is potential for them to come back. You know, we've got recalls on them, but it's up to them if they want to come back. And what we have to understand is that sometimes they're quite settled or they want to play further north. We've already had the conversations with the clubs and the players about that.
It would be quite nice actually if you weren't muttering whilst we're answering questions in here as well, just because it's difficult for people to hear, it gets picked up on microphones. So if you have something to say, as I say, put your hand up and we will come to you.
Hi. So we're 4 weeks away from the window opening, and I'm hearing a lot of uncertainty here. I would have hoped 4 weeks away from the window opening, you'd have nailed down pretty much what you're going to do, because we need those players in immediately. There's no good getting them in the end of January, because we'll be down by then. So it really worries me that you're still talking in such vague terms about, oh, well, we may have enough money for 2, we may have enough money for 4. Surely to God, any business, and that's what you guys are running this as, would have nailed down by now the amount of money they've got available and the people they want to get.
Unfortunately, that's not how football works. Because what happens is that the January transfer window is a very difficult window. If the 95% of the players are signed with other clubs, in the summer, it's totally different. They're out of contract. So you can't be sure what player you're going for. You know the position, you know the profile, and you know the type of player that you want. There won't be many clubs in January that are able to go and say that they've got that player at this moment in time. I can guarantee you that. Okay, that's not how it works. Okay? How it works is that you identify the players that you want to take into the building and see if the club wants to release that player either on loan or on a permanent basis. Because the transaction is not between you and the player, the transaction is between you, the club, and the player. And that's where it is. So That's a different scenario to maybe how you think it works. It's really, really different when you're in the front end of things, when you've got to do the business.
I think you've got a fair point, and let me reassure you, there is a plan. I think what Derek's saying is that the practicalities have got to meet the plan when we get to January. So, you know, we have talked about which positions, what style of players. We're actively looking through what kind of players we would need for that. So there is a plan for it. I just think that when a January transfer window opens, the practical reality of who's available and who's not just comes to meet those plans. But it isn't that there's no plan at all. There is a plan.
I'm going to move on slightly, but keep that question in mind, because we definitely will be coming back.
This young man's been asking for
Yeah,
ages.
actually, we will do it. You've had your hand up for a long time. It's a good point, Simon. Yeah, green Argyle tracksuit on the very inside. Sorry, that was mean of me.
Cheers, thank you. Hello there. My name's Lewis. Welcome back to Club Derek Adams. Just quickly, it's nice to be back. I want to be realistic with where we're at the minute as a club. And I want to ask my question on behalf of most of the fan base. The last few games, obviously, 7 losses in 8 games is ridiculous. I can't think personally of another club that would still have Tom Cleverley. Subbing off Lord McCabe on Saturday, I mean, it's a bit ridiculous. I think here we are. A year ago yesterday, we lost 4-0 at Ashton Gate after that dreadful Norwich loss as well. Here we are, 23rd. It's deja vu in League One. And I'm personally really concerned we could end up in League Two with this massive academy facility, whatever it is, at Folkestone Park. The attendance might drop. And my final main question to Simon is, do we have our priorities wrong? Once again, I'm looking at Folkestone Park. We need to be investing on the pitch. Thank you.
Okay, so let me address the question. So the question is, I think, why are we investing in Folkestone Park rather than on the pitch?
Yes.
Well, we are investing on the pitch. We've explained that our budget for football, the first team squad, this year is in the top 6 in League One. The reason why we can invest, one of the reasons why we can invest that amount in the first team squad when we're in League One is because in the past we've made investments in various assets that are generating the income that can go into the first team squad. There are 2 things about Folkestone Park and why we're doing it. One is that in the long run, Folkestone Park will deliver revenues to us through, or net revenues through cost savings on having academy players make it through to the first team, and through eventual transfers out of the academy via our first team into the market for footballers. So that's one reason we want a steady supply of players both for the first team and for player trading. The second thing is the choice between the first team and Folkestone Park was never a choice. The shareholders decided that they wanted to build Folkestone Park, but there wasn't an option of putting that money into the first team squad. The money for Folkestone Park has been ring-fenced since we first raised it and since we've increased the amount available. It was never available for the first team. So I'm afraid that direction of travel is just not what it was. I'm sorry.
Would it have been more
Yeah, put your hand up. I suppose, Mike, if you put your hand up, we'll come back to you. We need the mic. The question would be like, if the money was there for Folkestone Park, why was it put to Folkestone Park and why couldn't it have been put to the first team squad?
Okay, the money came from shareholders, yeah? And the shareholders decided, not the board, not anybody else, the shareholders decided that they would want to build a long-term asset for the benefit in the long term of Plymouth Argyle, rather than invest in the first team squad. At the same time, the investments that we've made over previous years have generated enough revenue for us to be able to invest a top 6 budget in League One. And that was the choice that the shareholders made. So, you know, you'd have had to have persuaded me that I wanted to spend my money on the first team squad, and I didn't. I wanted to build a long-term asset for the benefit of Plymouth Argyle Football Club.
But what I would ask is just quickly, with Folkestone Park, you look at who's come out of our academy. Of course, Cooper, Randall have gone on to massive things, but 3/4 of our academy end up at Truro, Yeovil. Like, how are we going to develop these better players?
We're now moving on to a completely different area.
Yeah, we can move into it.
The whole point about investing this money in the academy is to be able to attract better players, to provide better facilities, which we think will increase the pace at which players make it from the academy into the English Football League. But we have to understand that this is a game where a small percentage of players do make it to professional ranks. That's the same at all clubs, and it will continue to be the same at Argyle. But if we can get a small percentage of them through, it will be very worthwhile.
We will come on to Folkestone Park and more of that later, and we will get to questions, so just store them for now, and we will come back in a minute. But I wanted to move on, because that took up a big chunk, and as I said, we can come back to it at the end for sure, to another point that was raised by the last question. Apologies, I don't know your name, and that was around Tom Cleverley. So I think the point was we are 23rd in the league, we've lost 7 out of 8 matches. A lot of clubs would have changed manager, or at least thought about changing managers. So, why is he still here? Why do the board still think? Do you still think he is the right choice, Simon, Paul? Particularly because it has been quite poor.
Yeah. People will disagree, but clearly we think he's still the right choice. He's still here. When we hired him, we hired a young, ambitious, highly qualified manager who was prepared to make a commitment in the long term to Plymouth Argyle. The results have been poor. We recognise that he's young, he's inexperienced, and he's surrounded by relatively young, inexperienced coaches. So we decided to support him through building up a more experienced infrastructure around him. He fits very well into the culture of the club, which is important. And we think that by giving him this extra support, combined with what Derek has identified as his talents on the training pitch, that we will be able to turn results around. But trust me, nobody at the club is happy with the current state of affairs. Let me just be absolutely explicit about this. We're very disappointed, we're angry, we're fans as well. So we understand the anger, we understand the disappointment. What we're trying to do is fix it, but we don't think that changing manager at this stage is the right way to fix it.
Okay. We've mentioned top 6 budget, and as you said, that we should see you being, in theory, at the top end of the table. That was the kind of plan, the hope, the aim at the start of the season was for promotion. Clearly isn't the case now. Tom even said on Saturday, we're in a relegation fight.
Yeah.
That's what we're having to deal with. So why are you so sure he is the right man, despite him saying that we're not doing what was laid out by you at the start of the season?
Despite him not doing?
Well, the club is not doing as it was laid out.
Well,
at the start
because
of the
we
season.
think that what went wrong is a much more collective issue than just blaming one man for this. So we don't think that this is just down to Tom Cleverley. Again, when we hired him, we hired a relatively inexperienced but highly qualified, talented coach. We think he is still a talented coach despite the results, but we think he needs some support around him, which we've given him. So we think that will be sufficient for him to be able to do a good job with this squad, which we hope also to strengthen in January.
I think it's also worth saying that we see Tom for 90 minutes a week. I mean, you've seen a bit more of Tom, Derek.
Yeah, I mean, as I explained, I've been here for 2 weeks, and I've seen Tom work on the training pitch. I've seen him deal with the players, I've seen him deal with the staff, and the head coach, the manager, always gets the blame. That's a fact. But there is circumstances to why results haven't gone our way, as I've explained already tonight. And what you can't always do is blame the person at the top all the time. We have to rectify the problems that have gone before. And that's going to be difficult. We know that because of, as we've already said, that the money that we have spent. But the players that are in the building, we have to improve, we have to make them better. and they have to improve as well. The results have to improve. We all understand that. But we believe that Tom is the right man for the club going forward. We need to have stability. The club in recent times hasn't had that stability, but we believe we've got someone here that can help us go forward for the future.
Okay, we'll have some questions because there's lots of hands. Again, on this subject, if that's okay. Yeah, we just go to the back. We'll come to you. Don't worry. I've seen you.
I understand the issues with recruitment, and we hear the same thing, freak injuries in training, but we've signed a load of players that have got really poor injury records. Tom Cleverley seems a good guy. I get he's a young manager, but we've gone behind in 11 games this season and not come back. That's an horrific record. So what is it? So he's good with the squad, but is the squad that bad that we can't, even get one of those and turn those results around? I'm really concerned about that. And I just wonder, Derek, and welcome back, what role you're going to play in supporting Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you got on to the point of we've got a young squad and we've got a new squad, and that takes time to develop, and you don't get time because obviously at this moment in time the results aren't going our way. So it's up to the more experienced squad members to help the ones that have come into the team to then find that fighting spirit. As I said on Saturday, I thought we were excellent in the first half. We created multiple chances. Yes, we give away a goal in the second half, and then it became a problem for us. Until we get that confidence to go forward and build it within the squad, and that's up to everyone, the head coach, the coaching staff around about, then we need to get the results that way. How am I going to support him? Well, through the transfer business, I'm going to take care of the transfer business by doing deals, trying to get the players in that he wants, that he needs, and that is from the football club point of view, it's DNA as well, what we want to do going forward. And from a supportive point of view, is using my experience. I've been at this football club for a number of years. I know how it works, but not only that, I know how the EFL works as well. And it's just to give him an understanding and support of what things that you could try or you might not try to become better as well. And that's my supporting mechanism to him on a daily basis.
Yeah. Do you want to ask a question here, and then we'll take these two over this side as well?
Hi, I don't know if anybody realises, but Tom Cleverley is possibly, or not possibly, but is the worst manager in the EFL from January the 1st this year. His second part of the season last year with Watford, they would have finished below Plymouth Argyle if they hadn't had a stern start to the front of last season. So why anybody thought that he was going to come here and do a good job for Plymouth Argyle is beyond me. If you look at the 11 months of fixtures that Cleverley has overseen with Watford and with Plymouth Argyle, the bloke just hasn't got a clue. And as for you people at the front there, particularly the chairman, turning around saying what a great guy he is, I think the guy is a complete and utter loser as a manager. There's no identity in our team. We are now at the end of October and we have lost 5 league games at home by the end, of November. 5 league games. I can't remember in 50-odd years of watching Argyle when we had lost 5 home games at the end of by the end of November. The guy needs to go, and you guys need to clear your heads up the front there and do something about it.
Yeah, okay. I'll let you come back on that. 2-part. Why Cleverley, when his record at the end of last season at Watford, I don't have it to hand, but it wasn't great. Yeah, no, I remember seeing it. And then what I suppose from you, Derek, what is it as a coach that makes you think that he will be successful here? We'll come to that in a minute. Why in the summer was Tom Cleverley the choice?
Cheap option.
Given that record.
It was not a cheap option. That's simply not true. I think we've explained what we like about Tom Cleverley. I think it's fair to say that everybody was rather excited when he came. It wasn't just us. Everybody thought that this was a good hire, that we'd done well to attract him, and we thought that he would be successful. We thought that the team would be more successful. I don't think we can put everything at the foot of Tom Cleverley. I think it's completely unfair. We've gone into quite a lot of length about what we like about him. We've gone into quite a lot of length about what's gone wrong. It's not just Tom Cleverley.
I think if you look at other clubs that change their managers, it doesn't necessarily change their fortunes. Blackpool did it recently. They won 2 games and then they were back to losing. So it's not about one individual, it's about an entire team effort. I completely understand the anger, the frustration, you know. Watching football, if you watch football all your life, you understand what that means. It's really frustrating. It's very disappointing. No one's happy with it. But we thought Tom was a good head coach for the club. He's young, he's open to ideas, he's willing to learn, he's got experience, he's a good cultural fit. I mean, that's massively important, can deal with players. So bringing Derek in to bring some of that experience, we think is the way that helps. There's no guarantee that, you know, changing a manager, a head coach, whatever, suddenly changes the fortune, because it's a collective thing. It's the team, it's the players, it's everyone.
And yeah, Derek, on the coach to coach, you know, what is it? Not necessarily, I mean, it adds to it, but culturally or being around the place, what is it as a coach that you see that you like?
Well, I think that on the training ground, the information that he gives to his players is very good. And as a head coach, you can't go on the pitch and do it for them. And at this moment in time, the players have to be the people that go on the pitch and do it for the team. We have lacked goals, okay? There's no doubt about it. At this moment in time, we've got one player that scores a goal for us, and he's going to be missing for 3 games. That's an issue. Is it an issue with the head coach? The answer is no. The issue has been that we haven't probably taken in the right type of player in the windows to enable us to have goal-scoring wide players, centre midfield players. We don't have them in the building at this moment in time, or they haven't shown us at this moment in time they're capable of doing it. And that is what I believe that we require at this moment in time. We need more players in the team to go and score goals for us. I believe he's a talented individual. I believe he's a talented coach. And I just think at this moment in time, we need more players to go and show what they can do.
Take a couple more questions on Tom Cleverley, which I hope these two are, and then we'll move on because there's loads to get to. Other topics, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so I've been a season ticket holder for 5 years. My son's a season ticket holder as well. I look at Tom Cleverley, and he doesn't look like he has a clue what to do once it goes wrong. What I'm asking you is, what is the decision behind signing someone who doesn't have the identity, but signing someone who does kind of have the experience in this division and someone that we can have going forward? So basically what I'm asking is, why have we not gone for experience?
Just thinking back to the process that we have when hiring managers. You know, we've had successful managers who've not had experience. You know, Ryan Lowe had a 1.5 year experience as a manager. Stephen Schumacher had no experience as a manager, but 2 years as a assistant manager.
What about Foster?
Yeah, is it? Guys, just don't shout out, sorry, because we won't be able to hear across. But on that, what about Foster? And why with the one that did work, Muslich, I suppose, experience, did we not back?
What do you mean? Well,
the Foster one first, that's one that didn't work.
Not correct.
So, the argument of it does work.
It's like any of these things. I'm saying you can't generalise that experience is successful. Blackpool just sacked Steve Bruce, one of the most experienced managers in the EFL. So that didn't work for them, despite them also having a big budget. So I don't think that there's a strong correlation between how experienced a manager is and how experienced a head coach is and the results on the pitch. It just hasn't even been our experience in the last few years.
Yeah. Okay. We'll take one more on this inside. Sam, yeah, he's had his hand up. I'm surprised it's still up. are not falling down. We will come back to questions right at the end. Do not worry. That's not who I meant, actually, but fine. Go for it.
Earlier, Derek, you said that Tom Cleverley's been without 25% of his squad because of injuries. We've heard the line freak training ground injuries quite a lot this season. Is there any scope in the budget to get a physio, someone who's expert for fitness? Because, for instance, when we had previous managers, we were always going through till the 90 minutes. Fitness was always huge, and it seems to have so many injuries this season.
The answer to that question is that, since I've come in, I've looked at what has the training regime has been and what it can look like going forward. Obviously, recruitment of players is an issue as well. Have they had injuries in the past, and are they picking them up again? So we're looking at all these things at this moment in time to look at the training schedule to see how we can improve. And that's why I've come in, is to have some new eyes to the building, some experience from a different era, so to speak. I've managed 750 games, and I've seen things in a different way. And football has evolved. I don't believe all the time that it's evolved in the right way. We've seen it's gone from passing outside from the 6-yard box to now back into playing forward quickly, long throw-ins. Everything changes. All supporters want to see is attacking football. I remember when I first came here, John Sheridan was the manager. He played 3-5-2. The supporters wanted to go back to playing with wingers. I came in and I went back to playing with wingers. Once I left, the supporters wanted to go to having 2 up front. And what happened? The new manager came in and played 2 up front. So everything changes. And I've got to look at ways how we can change for the better through training regimes, players, and how we're going about things. And I've done that within the last week or so, but I need to continue implementing that as we go forward.
Do you still want to answer a question, Sam? Yes, please. Yeah, all right. Rob, here.
Taking it away from
Sam. Because the arm is... Sorry, there's too many Sams.
There are 2 Sams in the world, Simon. Come on, open your eyes.
Sams
probably contrary to what's in the room, I think stability is the way forward. But my question really is about reassurance. So Lowe and Schumacher were successful for us, and they were good appointments. But since then, whoever's responsible for all the recruitment and managers has got it wrong. We appointed the wrong manager in Foster and sacked him too late. We appointed the wrong manager in Rooney and sacked him too late. We appointed the wrong manager in Muslik, really, because he'd done the dirty on us and he actually didn't keep us up, so you've got to see that as a failure. So how can we be reassured now to trust the people that are making the decision that sticking with Tom, and I don't agree that sacking constantly is the way forward, but how can we be reassured as fans that the process has changed, the decision making has changed? I can see there's different people and different chief exec and a director of football, but I think the trust is broken and it's got to be repaired. And how do we do that? To get the fan base together again, but to trust the people that are making the decision. Is the processes different now? Are we less reliant on data? Are we watching players play? Are we making our decisions about Tom and the team differently? Simon, I remember when we appointed Rooney, you said about all the data of the reason we got Rooney was because we looked at his data and the chances created by the team and so on and so forth. So are we changing our thinking, or are we just hoping that on the law of averages, the 4th time round, we're going to get it right?
These... Very reasonable questions. I mean, the trust will be rebuilt when we start getting decisions right again. But, not all decisions, you're making decisions under conditions of uncertainty, and it's almost certain that some of them are going to be wrong. We've made some that I think we felt were correct decisions at the time, and they didn't turn out, in particular, I think 2 of those didn't turn out to be cultural fit, and that was a real problem. I think that we will become more rigorous. We will certainly not give up on the progress towards becoming more data-led. I think that one of the things that has gone wrong is that we've actually gone into reverse in the use of data, and that it's had negative consequences for us. So we will be increasing the use of data, being more rigorous about the processes with which we use it. And that's one of Paul's particular areas of expertise. But it's not always just about data. It is also about judgment. We still use scouts. We recognize that players' personalities are important. So the mixture of, being data. By the way, we call it data, and that seems to set off alarm bells with people. Data is just facts. And we try to make decisions based on facts, not based on emotions or people's judgments. People's judgments vary. But I think it's a perfectly legitimate question, but we will only get the trust back by getting some decisions right. And, we've obviously made some bad ones in the last 2 years.
I think it's worth saying, if in any recruitment, if you recruit anybody for any job in any walk of life, you don't get it right all the time, 100% of the time. It's a simple fact of life. We've got to learn from the mistakes that we've made, and we are doing that. So, will we get every decision right? No. Are we trying to do the best for the club? I mean, honestly, absolutely. Nobody wants to make bad hires. Nobody's making bad decisions deliberately. We want the best people in the club to make that work. I think bringing some experience into the building certainly helps with that thinking, and we try and do that and change our approach. So they're the things that we can do. We're not stuck on one square where we won't change what we're trying to do, and having different people involved and different experiences and trying to do the right thing every time is definitely a learning. I would say yes.
On that sort of that disconnect, I suppose, or mistrust potentially. Obviously, if you just have to be at Home Park to hear that kind of sentiment from parts and increasingly larger parts of the fan base on that trust with you, Simon, and the board in particular. You've kind of spoken about a couple of them there, but what is there a plan to re-galvanise that? Can you put a plan in place to re-galvanise that? Is it simple as just saying if you win football matches that comes back? Is there other ways? Is there other techniques? Is there other things you can do?
I think that having Paul readdress the processes that we use, thinking about how we use data, thinking about how we identify players, thinking about how we make decisions throughout the club is going to be one way of going back to making good decisions. We've made good decisions in the past, and we can get back to doing it. I think that we strayed a little bit from some of the good processes that we'd begun to use. I'm not going to get involved in pointing fingers and kind of blaming individuals, but clearly we lacked the focus on some of the techniques that we thought we should be adopting, and failed to do rigorously.
We talk about trust. I mean, so look, if we'd won the last 10 games, this conversation wouldn't be happening. So we know that winning games makes a difference. Yeah. Now, we can only control so much of that. We try and do the best things we can, but football's a game that's played by two teams, and sometimes you win and sometimes you lose, and we all know that. That's what it's like. I think from a trust perspective, there's a few things that I think are important. I think we need to have a stable group of people here who are at the club, whatever role that they're in, so that when you come to Home Park on a Saturday, you see the same people and you can talk to them. I think communication's important. We will try and be honest about things. We'll be honest about things. You can come and talk to us about things. I'm here every Saturday or every other Saturday. So, if you want to come and talk about things, more than happy to talk about them, try and explain what we're doing. So I think that kind of openness, honesty, trust, people who are here in the building who are consistent, helps rebuild trust outside of the games. I've realised, look, winning games is the thing that makes a big difference, but anybody who wants to come and talk to me about what's going on at the club, come and talk to me. That it's a community-focused club. We're a one club city. It's important. We're a big part of that. So people should feel that that's what we're about, and I'm aiming to try and get back a bit of that might have been lost. So there's a question over there.
Oh, is there? Sorry. Yep, thank you.
Sam Down's been asking for this.
We can get Sam in a minute. Yep, question.
Yeah, can I put a question to Derek, please? Welcome back. 750 games. You know a thing or two. There's been a lot of talk about data. I mean, in your approach to looking at players, signing players, this new role, I mean, how how much weight do you personally put on this world of data?
Yeah, I mean, it's been used. This is not a new thing. It's been used for many, many years. Lots of clubs are using it in different ways. And we all have to look at the success that, you know, a Brighton have, Brentford have. But not only that, other clubs are using it in exactly the same way. How do you filter out the players? How do you find the players with the biggest goal threat? Crossing ability, speed, all these type of things. So what we do is we filter it all down, and then we go and look at them and see what they get and what they've got. So we might filter it down to 5 players for each position that we possibly can get. And then we decide who we're going to sign. So that's how we use the data to get us going forward. So it's there for us. Everyone is using it. Everyone's using it in a different way. And we're no different from any other club.
I think it's important to say that the data that we all use, or almost all use, is the same data. So it's how you use it that gives you a competitive edge. It's not the data itself. No. And as Derek said, it's always struck me that it's strange that some clubs have been reluctant to embrace the use of data because it saves work. It helps you focus on a small number of players rather than a very large number of players. And that means you can do more in-depth research into the kind of things that data doesn't tell you. You know, if you're looking at 1,000 players, you're going to see 20 minutes of video on each, and it's going to take you ages. And people tend to draw the wrong conclusions from just looking at very small bits of, for example, video or live playing. So data helps with the rigor of your decision-making process.
I want to move us on a little bit to...
You've got to ask Sam down. Poor sod, he's been going for ages.
Okay, sorry. Yes. Go for it, Sam.
Hi all, thank you for coming to me. So my point is really, finally on Tom Cleverley, I know you want to move on to other stuff, is kind of as follows really. I'm glad that there's been a lot of culpability about recruitment. You pretty much have all three have said the recruitment this summer wasn't very good, and you won't find me disagreeing with that, but at the same time, whilst I certainly don't think we've got a good enough squad to be challenging for the top 6, I also don't think we've got the second worst squad in the league either, and that is where we are in the league. So I absolutely appreciate the points Derek's made about Tom being great around the club and around the training ground. My question would be, could you point to even 1 or 2 things in games, in live play, that he's done that give you faith that he will be good? Because, frankly, we've not yet recovered a single point from a losing position. Even when we've been pegged back to 1-1 in games, I think we've only gone on and retaken the lead once, which was the Luton game. And finally for Simon as well, and I'll try and paraphrase this quickly because it's quite a long quote, but in the interview after the departure of Ian Foster, Simon, you said that you become a good investment guy by being contrarian. It makes you dig your feet in a little bit more, and that makes you less likely to make a change. As it turned out, 2 weeks later, you did sack Ian Foster. Do you still think that in a football sense, it's a good thing to be, in your own word, contrarian?
Do you remember your question? Huh? No, you go, Simon, on that.
Let me ask. I think that following the herd and following popular misconceptions is a mistake. So I think you have to be very, very careful about making decisions that are in accordance with consensus, yes. I still think that.
We don't have much hope, then.
It's all right. Do you want to carry on, Simon?
No.
No?
I'll just say about the recruitment, just from...
Guys, so
get back to the point about recruitment and what the meaning of the recruitment. We're not talking about the players here. We might be talking about what players we took in, the positions we took in, the type of profile of player that was taken in. We're not talking about an individual here at this moment in time, because there's very, very good individuals that have come in this window. What we're talking about is, did we get the right profile of player in the last transfer window to help us? And I've just spoken about that from the point of view, did we get enough wingers that are going to score goals? Did we get enough attacking midfield players? Because these players that have come in the window have shown in the past that they are capable of playing. And it's up to them now to go and show us. So that's my point on the recruitment point of view.
What about on the question about like in-game management and reacting and going behind and not being able to change.
Yeah, I mean that comes from an experience point of view as well, and that comes from the players on the pitch. Yes, as a head coach, you can do things differently as well. We all know that we can sit in a low block. You've seen me many times doing that, and it's not a nice thing to watch, but it gets you results. And Jose Mourinho, for many, many years, has done a lot of things in a different way, and it's about getting results. Unfortunately, sometimes as a head coach, and you think that you have to go and play the beautiful game and go and pass the ball and play forward, sometimes that isn't the way that you're going to win games, because you're going to leave space. So it's a hard one. It's hard for coaches nowadays because they see this bright future of playing out from the back and making the game as big as it is. If you give the ball away, what happens? You give a goal away. Everyone's got opinions. Everyone's got different ideas. At the end of the day, it's how you get results. What matters.
Right, it's all right. We're going to move on. We're going to move on slightly because we've had loads. We've had loads on this. We're kind of digging up old ground a little bit on some of the questions. So, if you do have something, we will come to you at the end. I do want to get the next point in, which is the 5-year plan. Do we look a little bit silly saying that our 5-year plan was to be a sustainable championship club with Premier League aspirations just over a year or so ago?
I think we definitely took a step too far from a strategic point of view in talking about Premier League aspirations. Apart from anything else, that required new investors, and we've yet to find new investors. We've had new investment from me, but we've yet to find new investors to enable us to make that push. But the goal of being a sustainable championship club remains.
Okay, so that hasn't changed considering the position we're in with a realistic a possibility.
It's obviously less likely to be achieved, but that goal remains. Yeah.
The whole sustainability thing as well, is that something that can be achieved in the Championship, do you feel?
I'm not sure it can be achieved anywhere in the English Football League at the moment. We're clearly not as sustainable as we wanted to be. We said that sustainable means two things. It means, firstly, that you have a reasonable probability of staying in the Championship. And secondly, it means that you do so while having revenues roughly match expenses. And the first year in the Championship, we lost quite a lot of money, but we stayed in. The second year, we lost a lot of money on an operating basis. We lost nearly £6 million trying to stay in the Championship that was made up by player trading. So this club is losing money. And as we explained when Paul presented back in September, we continue to lose money. So this club is not as sustainable as we'd hoped it would be by now.
On that then, you mentioned investors and investment. So investment, is that new? Investment from you?
No, we talked about it. It began back in June, I think, maybe May. And I've continued to lend money at very attractive rates on very attractive terms to the club since then. So the total loan facility that's been drawn down is about £12 million. So that's in addition to the amounts of money which I think since 2020 I've invested in the club. Partly to fund losses, partly to build infrastructure, revenue generating infrastructure, but also partly to fund player acquisition and player wages.
Okay. So on investors, we've just spoken about that. I mean, is that even a possibility now? Like, are people interested? Would people be interested?
People have been interested. As we've been very public about saying, we've talked to a lot of people. We've had a couple of offers from people who were unsuitable, and somebody asked me if I regret turning those down, and the answer is no. They were not people who would have adhered to the values of a community-focused club, in my view, and those of the board. But Argyle is still an attractive proposition, I think. You know, we know it's a dangerous word, but it's a club with a lot of potential. I think it's now got an infrastructure that is appealing to investors. One of the problems that Sheffield Wednesday, a club with a long history, more successful history in many ways than ours, a larger fan base and so on, is not attracting the kind of bids that one would expect. It's because it's a club that has failed to invest in its infrastructure. So if you pay whatever you pay for Sheffield Wednesday, it's coming with a large commitment to invest in the stadium, to invest in other infrastructure around the place, and it's losing money. So I think Argyle is still an attractive proposition. We've yet to find somebody who's interested in buying the club. I should say that I think one of the questions that came in was, am I prepared to sell a controlling interest in the club? And I always have been. I became majority owner by first starting as a minority owner, funding what we thought was necessary infrastructure, diluting James, and eventually buying out James and having a controlling stake. We'd like to follow that model with somebody in the same way, by starting off as a minority, getting to know them, and then having them gradually take over. But if the right person came along and wanted to take over tomorrow, then I would feel obliged to sell to them.
What makes someone the right person?
Somebody who's committed to the values that we have at Argyle. Somebody who is committed to being basically, values-driven, community-focused club. But also prepared to invest in the first team. If you remember when we talked about finding new investors in the Championship and helping us achieve that 5-year mission, which included aspirations of Premier League, we were very explicit that we thought we needed to invest a certain amount every year for at least 3 years in the club to enable us to go from high probability of being competitive in the bottom half to being competitive in the top half of the Championship. And so that did require investment in the first team, spending on the men's first team. But we haven't found the right person yet. I haven't really got anything specific to update other than what we've already said, that we've hired an investment bank to act as our agent in helping unearth new possible investors. So we're still looking.
Okay. Question over on the far side. On investment, or roughly, yeah, great.
Anybody that supported Argyle for the last 40 or 50 years, we've never, ever been able to get any investment down here. Is that going to change by just keep looking?
Sorry, what do you mean we've not been able to attract any investment down here?
Well, I know that since you've taken over, I'm quite happy with that. But there's been 30, 40 years where we said we need bigger investors, we need bigger investment.
Yeah.
Nobody seems to be interested to come down this far or this part of the world.
Yeah. Okay, well, I've invested substantial amounts, so we found at least one.
Yes, yes, you are.
Which I'm not complaining about, but let's just make it clear that we have this club. We've had significant investment in this club. You look around the ground. This is a very different club from when Derek came. Derek tells the story about the state of the training pitches, the state of the stadium. In fact, I think Derek was interviewed in Exeter because they didn't want to show him the stadium and scare him off. So there's been considerable investment in this club, but it is difficult to find people who want to invest this far away from London. But it's not impossible. Carlisle now have American owners. That hasn't worked out for them, I must say, but Carlisle doesn't get any further away than Carlisle. So it is a problem. There's no doubt that potential owners prefer to be close to where they can fly their private jets, if they have them, or where they can be close to Heathrow or one of the major airports. And there's no doubt that restricts the marketplace for investors who I'm not like most investors in football clubs. I happen to be a fan. I happen to be from Plymouth. But that is not the modern model. So people who are looking to buy a football club near a major city have plenty of places to choose. Almost every football club in the EFL is looking for new investment. I was talking to somebody who's involved in investing in European clubs, and it's the same in Europe. So there are many clubs to choose from. Real Madrid Real Madrid are selling 10% of their company to new investors. So there are a lot of clubs, and it seems that there are many people. We hear a lot of investment from time to time in various clubs, but there are a lot of clubs like us who've been looking for a while and failed to find it.
But it's not. But there are things, like Simon says, it's not impossible.
Yeah.
And there's lots of things that, you know, are good about the way the club sits at the minute. Stadium's in good nick. You know, it's well supported. It's a one-club city. You know, these things, the experience for fans coming here is good. The fan zones, the things around it. So investors will look for that in a club. So it's difficult. The geography does make it more difficult. You know, quite often investors from abroad will want to get in and out of London quite quickly, and that's not that easy for us. Yeah. But it's not impossible. No. There's good things about the club which are attractive.
Absolutely, and that's why we're continuing to look.
I want to talk about finance for a bit. I know you, Paul, last time we did this, had the presentation and went through everything in fine detail. Is there anything else on top of that can be spoken about club finance-wise? Too early to tell from then?
Well, I mean, maybe not really too early to tell. I mean, I'm not quite in post fully yet, but since getting into the club, I've had a look at the finances. I mean, this year is very difficult. If truth be told, it's more difficult than we thought it was going to be from a financial perspective. Costs are much higher than we thought they were going to be, and the revenues are not what they thought they were going to be. So unfortunately, the club is now in a position where the deficit is going to be multiple millions this year. That's quite significant. We knew that it was going to be a loss-making year, and we'd already ring-fenced some of the monies that had come through from player trading in last year to cover this year's losses, but it's going to be much worse, unfortunately. So that's a real challenge for the club overall, and I think we've got to get to a stage where we, you know, reset back to being focused on the things that are really important to us. So this year, shareholders will support the club financially, but it's not really sustainable at the level that we've got going forward. And we've got to get the club back to really being focused on the things that are really important.
So on that, you know, the things that are important, have the club taken their eye off the ball or forgotten about the thing that's important, the men's first team, the team? Is more money, too much money being spent on the women's team? I know Folsom Park's a different thing, but other infrastructure around the ground, on Argyle TV, you said the costs are high.
Yeah.
Has the eye been taken off the ball then? I think, in regards to
I think as a championship club, we had certain expectations, and I think we've got to kind of get back to the core of what we're about. You know, I'm sure everyone in this room will think that kind of the best time we had was kind of 4 or 5 years ago, and I think going back to where we were then, being more prudent about it. I think the most important thing is what's on the pitch. So we've got to focus every effort of the club, whatever it's doing, to put more onto the pitch, to give the players and the football management the best opportunity to succeed. That's the top and bottom of it. So, yeah, there's probably been some things which have been a bit distracting from a cost perspective. We've got to be as efficient as we possibly can. We've got to do the right thing, but it's not sustainable for the club to continue as it is. And in the first quarter of next year, we'll be looking at things really hard so that we do only spend money on the things that are really necessary to make the on-pitch performance better.
Does that mean that things like the women's team and other bits and pieces, you know,
well, I think
hospitality...
the women's team is a slightly different thing, because I mean the women's team is on the pitch as well.
True.
Now the women's team, we'll lose multiple millions this year in the club overall. The women's team will have a net cost of about £200,000. So as a community-focused club, it's a very small part of it, and it's very much part of the fabric of what we should be doing as a community-focused club. It's a slightly different proposition than coming to a men's game. It's attracting different people. We shouldn't really apologise for having that. And if we didn't spend that £200,000, it's not going to make a fundamental difference to the way the rest of the club is, because we are going to lose multiple millions this year. So that £200,000 is not going to make a difference. There are plenty of other things, though, Charlie, that will be under review, you know, and we've got to make sure that we are spending wisely on the things that we do spend. We're only spending on the things that are really vital to that on-pitch performance.
Just to add, I don't want to give the impression that we're going to kind of cut all the revenue generating.
No.
All the revenue generating things that we get up to. There are many things that we've invested in over the last 5-6 years that generate revenue. You're sitting in one. If we hadn't invested in that, the club would be millions of pounds a year worse off in terms of revenues and in terms of the amount of money available for the first team. You know, we have successfully done that. I think what Paul's referring to is really some of the costs. Not the investments, but the costs.
Yeah.
Some of the costs that we need to take out.
Okay. Just, and I don't want to ask this question necessarily because I still don't want to believe it will happen, but what would the consequences of a relegation to League Two be?
So, okay. I mean, it's not that fundamental. The difference between being a Championship club and a League One club from a financial distribution is very significant. You lose circa 7 million quid's worth of TV revenue. The difference going down from League One to League Two is not that fundamental. It's not such a big shift. I mean, the reality is for us being in League One and League Two, we do get some money from TV distribution, but it's important that the rest of the club's finances, the revenues that come in from ticket sales, from the five-a-side centre, from hospitality, from events and concerts, that becomes a much bigger part of it. In the Championship, the money from TV goes up so much that it makes such a big difference. In League One or League Two, the reality is that as a well-supported club, where we are having close to full houses every week, it's not going to make such a fundamental shift for us. I think the bigger challenge all round, really, as Simon said before, is that we've talked about being a sustainable Championship club, and sustainability in football has really changed over the course of the last 3 or 4 years. The reality is the tide is rising, and clubs, lots and lots of clubs are losing money, and you know, having a benefactor who puts money into the club is, unfortunately, the model for the vast majority of clubs. We see clubs not too far away from here who, you know, have challenges when they don't have that model. And so, you know, the thing for us to do is to try and make sure that we've got the best possible option, either with new investors and making sure that we control our costs well and maximising our revenues, and probably a combination of all those three.
Are there any questions in the room regarding finance? Yes, let's come across. And then once we're done with this, we can open the floor to anything else that hasn't been discussed, that you would like further discussed.
To do with finances, but touching back on Folkestone Park again, the young man did ask a similar question, but I didn't get it specifically how I wanted it asked. But basically, putting a lot of money into Folkestone Park, I think most fans would agree is a good idea to improve the youth team. I sat here 2 years ago with Neil Dewsnip up there, pardon me, and asked if we would fulfil the criteria to reach the Category 2 status. So the first part of the question is, will we achieve that? Are we close to that? The second part is, just to take Exeter as another regional example, who had Ollie Watkins go through their academy, sold on, then he was sold on again to Villa for 27 million. They had a release, an additional sell-on clause. Yeah. The rumours are, or the figures on the internet are they made about £11 million all in all on that, if you can take that as correct. But you might get an Ollie Watkins once every 20 years. So, Folkestone Park, we all want it. How is it then going to generate continuous revenue into the club when you might only have that once every 20 years? Could it, in fact, end up being a drain on the club, given the current circumstances?
Could I just start?
Yeah. What was the first part of the question
Cat
again?
2.
Okay, so Cat 2 is still under review. There's no guarantee that we're going to go to Cat 2 or not. It's still under review. What we do think we're going to have is Cat 2 level facilities. And the important thing is for young players to come to play in Plymouth and play for Argyle in the academy, that they've got great facilities. If you're an 11-year-old, you don't think about Cat 2 or Cat 3. You don't have these things in your head, these classifications. You just want to know that you've got a good place to come and play football and a good environment around us. So we will have good facilities, good enough for Cat 2. Whether we really decide to go for that status or not is still under review. We've got to take into account whether the cost of that is really worth the benefit. On your question, I completely get about Ollie Watkins. I don't know whether those numbers on the internet are real or not. You know, transfer fees get bandied around like, water really, and some of them might be right and some of them might be wrong. You can't disclose any commercial arrangements. What I would say, though, is that there are plenty of other things rather than just looking for one big marquee signing. Wigan Athletic last season, I think this is right, had around 30% of the minutes from Wigan Athletic's team came from products of their academy. So that is not just big marquee signings, but players who are playing for them, who are providing assets on the pitch, and they're in a mid-table League One position. So there are other things than just having one big headline sale every 5 years. You'd expect it, Fulston Park being a great facility and having our position in the southwest where we can cover quite a lot of that area. We want to have a regular pipeline of players that can come and be part of the first team. Now, we've had some here in the last 3 or 4 years, not just the big ones that we talk about, you know, Michael Cooper and Adam Randall. So, of course, it's great to get those really big marquee signings out, you know, through the academy. But looking for a regular pipeline of people who can come and hit the first team, whether they go on to be big money sales or not, is part of it. But I understand you can't, you know, as Extra finding out, you can't rely upon a once in a generation 15 million quid.
Right. I've sort of gone through quite a lot of these. Are we comfortable, people on the
no,
you guys up here, with what we've answered? Do you feel you've got across what you wanted to on certain things? Is there anything else you want to?
Can you ask me that one question?
Go back on
One
question.
That one question. Somebody asked me, and I said we'd make sure it got asked whether I'd lost interest in the men's first team squad, and the answer is no. We're spending £9 million so far on the men's first team squad. We'll be spending a bit more in January. So the concept that I've lost interest is just nuts. As I've said, we've made investments over the years, very considerable investments in the facilities. Those investments enable the ground to be full despite our league position, despite everybody being as angry as we are. And I think that those investments have enabled us to continue to invest in the main thing. The main thing is the men's first team squad. So no, absolutely not lost interest, and I can see no evidence that we've lost interest in it.
Okay. There's a chance for you, if you're not happy with what you've heard, or you have a question that you haven't heard asked or want follow-up on, or whatever, feel free to pop your hand up and we can come across to you. So there are a couple. So if we come down here and also the back. Oh yeah, we'll go there as well. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate no one at home can see what I'm pointing out here, so it's
right. Good evening, everyone. Been quite a negative sort of approach. I'd like to start off by saying that I was quite grateful for Mr. Brent helping us out, and even more grateful for Mr. Hallett of improving on that. So I feel that you've done the best you can and still doing the best you can. I think one of our problems has been recruitment, and whoever's picked these players have never gone and seen them play. Because if they did, they would see that they couldn't even trap the ball, don't know when to pass, don't know who to pass to, and when the goal's open, they don't want to shoot. So I really find that this recruitment has just been a complete disaster. Lastly, you talk about people investing in people that you've thought wasn't sort of suitable for our club. Who is going to come down and put all these millions of pounds to buy yourself out, sir? And also for all the investment and all the day-to-day running expenses, why would these people come down here and spend their money? And you've said you've turned the people down. Fair enough, sir. But what made them want to come down and put all their millions of pounds into this club when we're making a great loss? Thank you.
I think the same thing that I do, apart from the fact that I happen to be from Plymouth. People are attracted to the narrative of a club like ours. They've seen the Wrexham story, and okay, that's Hollywood megastars, it's rather different. They've seen the TV show Ted Lasso. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I can't tell you how influential that TV show has been in the United States. Not just on the man in the street, but on, you know, wealthy people who are interested in the drama, the narrative, the excitement of EFL football. And I think they're the kind of people who appreciate the authenticity that you get from being a club deeply engaged in the community, doing good works in the community over and above what happens on the pitch on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. So there are people who are interested in that. You know, we've seen it in clubs like Carlisle, for example, where it's a wealthy American family who just like the idea of investing in a club even as far away as Carlisle. So there are people who are interested in the authenticity, and I frankly think that when it comes to the revenues of the English Football League and the member clubs, that we've not done collectively a good enough job in marketing that drama, marketing that narrative and that authenticity in places where there's a hunger for stories like that. So where I come from in the United States, there is this increased interest in the Premier League, obviously, in some of the big leagues. But domestically, what's happening in the United States is a springing up of football clubs all over the country who are playing in something called the United Soccer League, which operates like most American sports. They often have parallel leagues. There's no promotion, relegation. But one of the interesting things that the USL is doing is introducing promotion and relegation. Almost every major town and a lot of the minor towns in the United States is starting up a USL team. Fans of those teams can be converted into fans of EFL teams. And one of our strategies at Argyle is going to be to make a bit more effort to generate a US fan base. So it's fans as well. Sorry, I've drifted into fans. But really, I think that explains why there is an increased number of wealthy American families who want to get away from, let's call it the kind of, in some ways, the lack of authenticity that I think is now associated with some of the bigger leagues, particularly the Premier League. You know, it's multinational. It's not an English league anymore, whereas, you know, we are the English Football League.
And on the recruitment question, are we happy we covered that?
Sorry.
Look, it was around, they mustn't have seen the players play.
Yeah, no, we have scouts. Look, we clearly got it wrong. We've spent a lot of time tonight talking about getting recruitment wrong. But we do have scouts. You know, as I thought we'd explained, you know, we use data to identify what we're looking for in certain positions that are consistent with our overall playing style. So we get that down to, you know, a limited number of people, and then we send scouts out to go and look at them. And, you know, clearly they didn't get it right. It was all part of the process not working out this season.
Have those scouts been released then?
It's a good question.
Have the scouts been released is what the question was for those that couldn't hear. What sort of has been kind of gleaned from that process of looking back at it?
But again, you know, it's like you're making decisions under conditions of uncertainty. You don't always get it right. Clearly we got a lot wrong this summer.
So that's fine. We've had quite a lot of questions from you. We'll come across over here.
Are there not lessons to be learned from last season? The young lad made the point that this time last year we'd lost 4-0 away at Bristol City. I think everybody in this room, everybody in the ground knew at that point Rooney should have been sacked, but we kept him for another month. I think if we'd sacked Rooney then, and if Muslik was available that month earlier, we'd probably still be a championship club. So do we not run the risk of leaving Cleverley in the job for a month longer and we find ourselves in League Two next season?
It's always a risk. Everything is always a risk. You can't get away from it. It's football. It's life. But we think that we're doing the best we can to minimise that risk. And I think we've explained at length what we're trying to do to minimise it.
Yeah. Having seen it last year, is that you're not worried of that happening again?
Look, always worried. But, you know, it's football. You always worry. Things obviously can go wrong. But I think we've explained why and how we think we're going to turn it around.
Anything more to add on that?
No, I mean, I think it's easy to kind of look at it and say, this time last year we were doing X, Y, Z. I mean, it's difficult to know if we'd have changed manager a month earlier. Would that really have made a big difference? We don't know. It's easy to assume that. You know, the reality was that Wayne had more away games in the first part of last season than Miron had, and we were performing better at home than away. You know, maybe that was part of the difference.
Injuries coming back?
Yeah, injuries coming back, you know, okay. Look, it's difficult to know. There's no guarantee that if we'd have done what was suggested there, it would have worked. We just don't know that.
There's 5 hands up at the minute, so we'll do those 5, and then we'll call it, because it's nearly 90 minutes worth of fans forum. So yeah, okay. Keep your hands up, the ones that have it up. I've kind of,
if you can,
caught an eye, so I sort of roughly know where they are.
Hello, this is a question about youth products. Obviously, Tegan Finn is the sort of the hottest prospect so far, or that's in and around the first team. Is he part of the plans to generate revenue in the short term? And have we got enough other bits in place to keep him so we don't end up losing him for shirt buttons, like we have a number of other players over the past, like Gosling? I know that was obviously before your time and stuff, but we have been sort of caught out and people grumble about how much we ended up getting for Cooper because he went into his last year of his contract and stuff. So,
well, I think that I was obviously here. I gave Michael Cooper his debut. I gave Randall their debut when I was here the first time. And I think that youth development is always spoken about. And over time, we haven't created enough players for the first team. But we have generated money through the youth system in releasing players maybe at 14, 15 years of age, because it becomes very difficult to get them to the first team if there is potential at that age, because people could come in and pay compensation or a transfer fee. Tegan is part of the setup at this moment in time. He's away with the first team tonight for the game tomorrow night, which is important. He's 17 years of age. As I spoke about before, we've got 5 young players that train with the first team every day, and that's great experience for them. We don't have an under-21 team, and we don't have a reserve team, but that was a similar scenario to when I was here the first time. We had a development team. We made a development team because we saw potential in the likes of Cooper, Randall, Jeffcott, and they all went and played in the first team. So now we're trying to do a similar thing, because we feel that this group of players and the likes of Roberts and Isaac, who's away at Bristol Rovers at this moment in time, have that potential. Hatch and Matthews go through who Hatch and Matthews as well. Matthews is obviously injured. So I think it's important that we develop these players for the first team.
Yeah, okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those questions left. So yeah, at the back, Ali, thank you.
Hi, thank you for coming back to me. I wanted to follow up on something on my first question, which I know may be partly my fault, because I get a bit to Simon and a bit to Derek. It was just really to follow up on the point about, I appreciate you saying, you're backing Tom Cleverley to the hilt based on a number of things of him being well qualified. With respect, probably most coaches will have a pro licence nowadays, and how he is around the ground. But is there anything at all you can point to in game management, or even in terms of tactically, that you've seen that we haven't, that can assure those of us who think it's going to be a bit of a disaster? And to kind of follow up on that with a sort of a part 2 as well, the injuries have been a problem. I appreciate you guys haven't proactively mentioned the injuries because you don't want it to be an excuse, and fair play. But what is the outcome of the review as to how many injuries we're getting? Because Tom Cleverley said back in August about this, and we're still getting loads of injuries 3 months on. So it's really, what are the positive signs in-game, not as such as character. It's what's being done about the injuries. And finally, to Derek, actually, with the kind of, shall we say, ill discipline we've been having in the squad with the amount of cards we've been picking up in a silly way, would it be a good idea, Derek, for yourself and Tom to sit the players down and show them this forum, to show them how many people do care and are, annoyed about the way we're in, just to see if that has any positive impact? And that is my final question.
What was it? In-game management?
In-game management, injuries and discipline.
Do you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, from my time here, the injuries I've already spoken about tonight, I'm only in the last couple of weeks, so we have had a process of looking at the training regime, how we're training, how we're getting players back to fitness as well. What players have come in the transfer window? Have they had injuries before, or are they new injuries? And what are we doing about that? In-game management, as I spoke about before, comes from the players on the pitch, but sometimes comes from the head coach as well, about stopping and starting games. It can be a short corner, it can be a quick free kick, it can be a long throw. These are all things that the head coach, the coaching team talk about all the time. They watch the videos of training after every session. Not every coach does that. They watch the games, they discuss, they scrutinise the positives and the negatives. The problem is when you're a head coach and a manager, you're only as good as your players. If you're giving the information out and you're giving them the formation, the tactics, unfortunately, sometimes the players don't take that process on. And that's maybe where we're getting it wrong at this moment in time. We haven't recruited the right type of player for us at this moment in time, and that has to change.
Would you show this fans forum to the players? Or no, not that, but the discipline,
we
basically.
were just talking about it.
Yeah, the discipline. Listen, it can happen when you're down the bottom of the league. Statistically, you're either the best team in the league from the point of view that you don't pick up fouls, and that's the reason you're there, or you're the worst team. You pick up nicky fouls, you're late in tackles, you're slow to the ball. It happens. I don't think there's an ill discipline in the squad. Yes, on Saturday there was a sending off for violent conduct. We all understand that, and you can say that that was a problem, and it was a problem, and we're missing a top striker for 3 games. He's as disappointed as everyone. He's been roughed up every single game he's played in. He's been man-marked. He's been knocked about. Unfortunately, on Saturday, his patience told, and that would probably happen to most of us in the dressing room, not all of us.
4 more questions then, so yeah, we'll go across that line in the middle.
I'd like to make a point that Talai is annoyed because he's fed up with playing with a team that just doesn't care. And that's why he reacted the way he did. The point I'm trying to make is to Simon, you point out that we care about an American investment, but you tell us as season ticket holders, and I've been a season ticket holder for over 6 years, you tell me when my return of investment is.
Sorry, I don't. Return on investment. What do you mean?
As a fan, we're seeing the decline that we've got as a team.
Yeah.
We invest in the club as season ticket holders, as people that just go into the club.
Sorry, I see what you mean. Yeah, sorry. Well, look, we failed to deliver the quality of football that season ticket holders and other ticket buyers would expect. That's what we're trying to fix. But let's just remember that our attendances at the moment are up, so there are a lot of people who still want to come and support their club in difficult times. So what you're getting is the ability to support a club that's, values-driven, community-focused, does a good job. But the performance on the pitch has been a great disappointment to all of us, not just to season ticket holders.
Thank you. The one in, yeah. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you. My question again, back to Tom Cleverley. Given the slightly worrying financial situation that Paul's just outlined, is one of the factors of keeping Tom the financial situation and the cost of paying him off? And my second point is an observation more than a question. You've explained quite well why you're keeping Tom, but if you think about it, you've said that you're going to get players in January, so you're backing him until at least January. You'll have to give him some time for the new players to bed in. That probably takes us into February, March. We could be down by then. So I think the decision needs to be taken sooner, doesn't it?
No, we've taken the decision that we're going to back him in January instead. It's like in any decision, there are financial consequences as well as, there are costs and benefits to any decision you take. And I'm not going to deny that the cost of paying off Tom Cleverley is a factor, but it's not the most important factor. From a very simple level, if we go down to League Two, the value of the club goes down a lot. So, that inhibits our ability to raise the levels of investment that we want. So, that would be a cost. So if we thought that changing Tom Cleverley was significantly going to improve the probability of avoiding relegation, then we'd get on with it. But we've taken other measures that we think are going to significantly improve the probability of avoiding relegation. And, you know, we obviously are confident that that's the best way forward, rather than the disruption of changing manager again.
Final two questions in the middle here.
I was just going to ask, we've talked a lot tonight about recruitment and how kind of dismal it's been in the summer. Where does this leave David Fox? Obviously, Derek's come in. I don't know if you'd like to answer that.
David Fox is heavily involved in a day-to-day business. Nothing changes from that point of view. The recruitment process is going to be different because I'm going to be in charge of it, I'm going to be ahead of it, and I'm going to have to look at getting the right quality of player that the head coach wants in. And that's got to be a whole different concepts of things that we've spoken about before that we're going to work towards. And David is part of that, and he's done a very good job at this football club in the time he's here, and he's excellent with his staff, his processes, and everything as well.
I should just point out, David was not responsible for recruitment over the summer. He was part of the team that was involved, but he was not the leader of it. I think there was a general misconception that David was in charge of recruitment, and he was not.
Great, thanks for that. Final question, and if we could just keep murmurs to a minimum, just so we can all hear.
Yeah, obviously you've heard a lot from us tonight, and I think in order to make balanced decisions, you have to see it from all sides. So my question really is just to, for those that want it, and I'm a happy clapper. I don't want it, but if you did indeed get out of our club, Simon, and did a chancery on us right now, where would that leave us?
Well, I think Paul's explained that we've got a hole in our accounts.
I mean, as chief exec here, I'm responsible for the club, and I feel that responsibility. The reality is that football is a game now that the vast majority of clubs have got a benefactor in place. So we're reliant upon the money that comes in from shareholders, predominantly Simon, but others too at the minute. And if we didn't have that, and we didn't have an alternative version of that, then that would be an enormous problem for this club, as other clubs have found out year in, year out in the EFL in the last 15 years. And we could point to 2 or 3 now that are suffering under that. So that is a massive problem to us. Now, the things that we can do so that we're not in that position so starkly are try and get back to the core of what we're doing, make sure that the investments that have been made are maximised so that we get the money back into the club, so that we can rely as little as possible on having a benefactor. And if we do have a benefactor who wants to put money into the team in the future, then that adds to it. It's additive. So we've got to have a stable, community-focused club that is here for us all to watch football on. That's I think what's the most important thing for us. It sounds hokey or cliched, but us being able to come to the match with our kids, with our mates, with our dads, that's the important thing here, and we've got to make sure that works. If we've got benefactors who are prepared to invest in the club and support it, to put more and more money into different things, primarily the first team, then great. But without that, the club is simply not in a position to survive at the minute.
And the finance to the first team has to be used appropriately. And put into perspective, when we got promoted here from League 2 into League 1, the budget was just over 2 million. We're in League 1 now, and the budget's 9 million. That puts into perspective how the owner has backed this football club in different ways as well. So think of it in a different way. He has backed this football club and will continue, as he said.
Anything to add, Simon? Or are you happy with what these two have said on that?
I need to give Jane a call.
Okay, and on that bombshell, I hope that we have answered as much, as we can throughout tonight. A massive thanks again for everybody that's in the room and has asked questions, for those that have submitted questions online, for those that have watched. This is for you to explain exactly what is going on at the club, but also for you to ask questions on what is going on at the club. If you have missed anything, it is available immediately as we come off air. Maybe give it 5 minutes or so on our YouTube page. There is a link also on our website as well. And there has also been a thread on X, so you can see bullet points on there. Chris Errington has also been here tonight, so no doubt you can read it on Plymouth Live as well. Before we say goodbye, Paul, do you want to say a couple of words just to end?
Yeah, I mean, just to sum up really for tonight, I mean, it's just worth reiterating what we've tried to communicate tonight. I mean, we are trying to be clear and honest and open about things. Nobody at the football club is satisfied with where we are. We're all disappointed, angry. You know, it's what you feel is not different to us. It really isn't. There are three key things that are going on at the football club at the minute. So we have a top 6 budget. That's factual. We're underperforming it. We know that. We're trying to do things to correct it. Fulston Park is very much part of our strategy. That money has been ring-fenced by Simon for that development. It wouldn't have been available to go into the first team squad. So that is very much part of the future, but simply wouldn't have been available, that money, for the first team squad. And the third thing is that the financials of the business, the club, are perilous, you know, very, very difficult. And without that benefactor, that support from existing shareholders, we just wouldn't exist in the same way. And it's up to us, and predominantly led by me, to do what we can to fix that so that we're more sustainable going forward.
Thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.